From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, an unwelcome visitor for sure, but what the homeowner did may be even more surprising.
More flooding along the Missouri River over the weekend and into this week, but how long could these floods last? I'll have that story coming up today on AgDay.
As new crop progress numbers show, we still have a long way to go.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Weeks of wet weather have farmers still playing catch up in their fields in an effort to get something in the ground. Planters were rolling over the weekend. The latest crop progress numbers from USDA show corn is now 67% planted. A big improvement over last week's 58%, but still a long way to go with a 5-year average of 96%. Indiana now the furthest behind. Just a third of the crop is in the ground. Soybeans, they're running way behind as well, with just 39% planted compared to the 5-year average of 79%. Producers continuing to face delays getting out in their fields. Indiana farmers only had a little more than 2 days. It's the same problem in Illinois, Ohio, and Missouri. This spring, South Dakota has had the slowest planting pace in the nation and the slowest on record in the history of the state. The weather of the weekend and this week's a bit more cooperative in the northwestern Corn Belt, which will allow some planting. But as Michelle Rook reports, it may be too late for many producers there.
South Dakota farmers are facing historical planting delays and may see a record number of prevented plant acres as well. In fact, the planter's been sitting in the shop for weeks at the Vanderwall farm.
I don't remember a time when we've had so much land that we couldn't plant. And it's because we've had just incessant rains and snow.
It's already past the final planting date for corn for crop insurance. He says they'll still plant some corn for feed, but won't switch those fields to soybeans.
Economics lead us to planting corn a little bit longer. There's really no economic reason to switch corn acres to bean acres.
However, even with drier weather, some flooded fields just won't get planted.
So I'm pretty sure we're going to have a very significant amount of prevented planting. There's just no way around it.
North of Volga, Marv Post finally found a dry field to plant in, but has never seeded this late.
We sure like to have the corn planted by the 10th of May and be all done with soybeans and stuff also.
He's also facing the first prevented planting claims ever on his farm.
I think we're going to probably have 20-25% of our acreage prevent plant. Which normally we don't have any.
However, the wettest area of the state is the southeast. Tim Ostrom has only 100 of his 1,400 corn acres planted, and it will take several days of dry weather just to get into the field.
Depending on what the next week brings, if we can plant some more corn, we will. But if it's going to be too much later, we'll switch to beans.
So yield loss is inevitable, and with so many flooded fields, he'll take a PP payment, which means less income per acre on his farm.
Prevent plant would be lucky to, pay your cash rent or a few of your costs, but it is not anything that's going to make you any money.
I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
Thanks, Michelle. As of Monday, USDA's crop progress report shows the state was sitting at 44% planted on corn, 14% planted on soybeans versus the 5-year average of 82%. Just how many acres will go to prevented plant in 2019 is a question the entire market is searching for. Now take a look at this map. Our corporate partners over at Farm Journal asking farmers that very question via a mobile pulse poll. They asked more than 1,000 farmers, do you plan to file a prevented plant claim on any of your corn acres? The areas in green, 34% said yes, they will. Many of those areas along major rivers. 45%, the dots in red, said no, and a fifth of those asked, the areas in blue, said they still don't know. Acres that had been planted are now underwater as flooding continues to spill over levees across the Midwest. Farmers along the river had been sandbagging for months trying to keep the water back. Well, over the weekend, they lost their battle against flood. Mark Thompson farms in Callaway County. He said when flooding happens this late in the season, they may not have a chance to grow a crop at all this year.
There comes to a point to where there's no point in sandbagging. I mean, you can't sandbag 6 miles of river levee. You could do some low spots, and that's what we did. And we tried, but you're kind of danged if you do and danged if you don't. You got to put an effort in, but it's inevitable when you read the predictions what the outcome is going to be.
Thompson says it's likely going to be middle of June before the water goes down, if it goes down at all. Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan is living in the heart of flooding near Kansas City. Tyne, the water just keeps on coming.
Well, Clinton, as of Friday, there were already more than 100 breaches on levees along the Missouri River. And over the weekend, the waters just kept rising and the levees were ultimately falling like dominoes. So now this is the reality. Tens of thousands of acres of farmland underwater, and these floods won't be over anytime soon.
It started back in March, and I think we'll see a high river throughout the summer probably. You know, the Corps said yesterday that they're going to 75,000 CFS releases out of Gavin's Point tomorrow, and they plan to maintain that range between 65,000 and 75,000 through the rest of the season. So that's clear into the summer, maybe even into the fall.
Waters is in constant communication with the Army Corps of Engineers and critical of how the river has been managed this year. But as he said, now reservoirs upstream are so full, more water will need to be released, which is why the flooding could last for months. And you know, Clinton, as a journalist, you never want to become part of the story. But in January, we moved back to Missouri. And on Friday, we were forced to evacuate that home. And since March, work has gone on along these rivers to sandbag and volunteers trying to fight back these record river levels. So once a levee breaks and that water comes rushing in, you're flooded with emotions. You're angry, you're sad, you're frustrated, and you feel helpless. And so while some are feeling this while they have other acres that are dry and may still be able to be planted yet this year, others, all of their acres are now underwater. Just a frustrating, a sad, and an eventful year already. Clinton.
That's for sure, Tyne. Thank you. While some producers are finally making progress when it comes to planting, others have a long way to go, as meteorologist Cindy Clausen shows us in today's Crop Comments. Cindy?
Well, Clinton, this video was shared by Chris Harper. He lives near Hugoton, Kansas. That's in the southwest part of the state. Now, Chris posting this video on Twitter saying not much for boat traffic today. He also mentioned that the ducks and the geese did not appreciate the wake. Well, from the video, it certainly doesn't look like it, but Chris actually says that he finished planting on Sunday. He says that he's done with planting spring crops, now other than replanting lakes and washouts, but that's only if it dries out enough. Let's take a look at your wind speed forecast as we head through the day today. We'll see some higher winds over towards the Great Lakes area and then starting to pick up, especially this afternoon, down towards the Four Corners region, especially over towards New Mexico. You have kind of a weak boundary in your area. As we head through the overnight hours, we'll see those winds kind of die down in most of the country. And heading through your Wednesday, we'll see the winds starting to pick up again a little bit in the east and into the southern plains as well. I'll have your national forecast coming up, but for now, here are some hometown temps.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
The president's threat to increase tariffs on all Mexican goods has officials gathering in Washington this week. Several Mexican officials flying to Washington Monday to meet with their counterparts, hoping to avoid an escalation in trade tensions. President Trump threatened a 5% tariff on all Mexican imports starting next week if Mexico doesn't help stem the flow of migrants from Central America. USDA Secretary Sonny Perdue will meet with Mexico's agriculture minister to discuss Trump's threat and the potential impact for U.S. agriculture. Around 80% of Mexico's exports go to the U.S. Grain markets topsy-turvy again this week. Ahead of the latest crop progress report, up next we'll see where the fund money is moving and what it could mean for prices. And later, a story that's about much more than a gator busting inside a house. You have to hear what the homeowner did coming up.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Monday was the first day of trading for Corteva stock on the New York Stock Exchange, company officials ringing the opening bell. The pesticide and seed maker was formed out of the merger between Dow and DuPont back in 2017. A mixed market on Monday as traders continue to assess the weather situation and what that means for planting. Here's an update from the CME.
Today in the grain market, we've got a lot more volatility than we had expected. Soybeans were higher. The slow planting is at issue right now, and it seems that the strength is really coming from the corn and the wheat, and that gave the soybeans a little bit of a boost. Now, there is some profit taking expected to come that will definitely cap the rally right now, but the trade war still weighs heavy on the market, and I think that also makes it difficult for us to really move much higher. Corn was firm. The futures did stabilize somewhat, and after the largest gain for a month in 4 years, the market still looks relatively strong. It's they're really looking for the USDA to cut some of the production numbers at the end of the year, also cut some acres. Certainly, that's going to create some support for the market right now. The muddy conditions just make it almost impossible to get any of the grain in the ground right now. And as interesting as that is in the Midwest, in the Southeast, they're having almost drought conditions, extreme heat. So it looks like that we're going to have some serious weather issues, and that's a recipe for a lot of volatility for the rest of the summer. Wheat is the real story of the day, surging today. More rain and fear that there is going to be some crop damage really sent the market rallying, and we're up well over $1 now from the start of the rally just last week.
Mark Feit with International Agribusiness Group, our guest today. And Mark, we've been watching and talking a lot about what managed money, the funds, are doing with our commodity markets, and they've been making some moves as of late.
Yeah, there's been a huge change in wealth over the last 3 weeks, and it's given the fuel to the rally we've had. If we go back 3 weeks, you had the announcement that we're going to not negotiate with the Chinese and tariffs, increased tariffs. We had an incredibly bearish report out of the USDA in May, and that gave us a springboard to this rally we've had. And we had the fuel for this, and as we show in the chart, is we had the funds record short. All these bets on prices going lower, and we've triggered them, gotten them underwater, and forced them out of the market.
Yeah.
And they're running for cover now. We think they're back to close to even. So the question is, do they get long here, or is getting back to even enough? And that's a tough spot. We're not very good when they're in the middle. We're good when they're at the extremes. We just don't know what they do from here.
Yeah, and they'll have decisions to make too on which way to go, or do we expect that they could just stay even?
They could. They tend to not stay in one place very long.
Okay.
Them coming out of this position was inevitable. They've never held a position through the summer. But what it's done is now we've got this opportunity for farmers. What do I do with this opportunity?
Right.
For us, we think you've still got to get aggressive selling corn. I think a producer has to look at this year's crop and next, and maybe it's this year's when they're headed to the field. And maybe they miss the top, but it's still going to be $4 plus. And we're playing what's over $4.50 with options. So we've been in a great position. We had options on going into this rally, so we were able to, the first piece is easy and we can get aggressive selling. What we do from there is we got to be pretty cautious.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the good advice for going forward through this next couple of months, or the next even couple of weeks, because we just don't know, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, well, appreciate it, Mark. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
To talk to Mark, give him a call at 248-715-9222 or send him an email at mfight@iaggroup.com. Join Andrew McCrae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
Welcome back. A bit of good news amid all the flooding over the weekend. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was able to lower the water release from Oologah Lake Reservoir on the Verdigris River in Rogers County, Oklahoma, but still a lot of force behind that water, as you can see there, Cindy, and so much rain, more rain falling in that part of the country again.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just the past 24 hours, and you could see while it's not as widespread as it was over the past few weeks, we don't need it anymore. And now we're even getting into hurricane season, so I know that's going to be on the thoughts and minds of a lot of producers, especially in the southern part of the United States and in the eastern United States as well. Now let's put this into motion, show you the next 24 hours. And yeah, we're going to be seeing more rain, especially in the south central United States, up here through Arkansas and into northeastern Missouri, and so also into the southeast. So we're going to be seeing a fair amount of precipitation. There's a lot of moisture out there, and so this is not good news for farmers that haven't had a chance to get out into the fields. This is what's going on. We have high pressure in the southeast, so you'll stay dry today, but things will start to kind of get more active as we get into tomorrow. There, as we look at a stationary front in the plains, we're going to see a system, kind of our main system right up here, that's going to be entering the northern part of the United States. So as we move into our Tuesday, notice we'll see some scattered showers and thunderstorms around. Thunderstorms picking up, especially in parts of the southwest today and all along our frontal boundary. As we head into the overnight hours, everything kind of pushes a little bit further to the east. We'll watch that low over the Great Lakes region. You got that warm front stretching into the northeast, bringing some wet weather there. As we head into Wednesday, we're just going to see a lot of moisture and some scattered showers and thunderstorms all throughout much of the southeast and into the southern plains. Again, some of this is going to be hit and miss, but we certainly would like to be missed because we've had way too much rain recently. All right, here's a look at temperatures. And while it's still pretty hot in a lot of the southeast, we're not seeing quite as many 90s. But look at this, 87 all the way up to Bismarck. So we do have some pretty good warmth out there. Cooler in the northeast, that'll stay that way as we head through the overnight hours with some 40s for those overnight lows. Really warm and muggy, though, continuing in the south central, southeastern United States. Then as we head into your afternoon tomorrow, we're still looking at a lot of 80s and even some 90s, 70s now stretching up into the northern plains. So a little bit cooler for you there, but these are looking a little bit more typical of summer-like temperatures, the cool spots kind of right along the far northeastern United States. Here's that jet stream, kind of a weak trough in the southwestern United States, but watch what happens. We've got a trough in the northeast. You'll see those cooler temperatures continuing, but another one coming into the northwest that's going to eventually cut off as we get into the early part of next week. So that'll be interesting to watch. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. Melrose, New Mexico, scattered showers and thunderstorms, especially this evening with a high of 82 degrees. Memphis, Missouri, scattered showers and thunderstorms, 81 for your high. And Macclesfield, North Carolina, mostly sunny with a high of 80.
Turning manure into something more, we'll tell you what's going on in Maine, plus more problems because of all the wet weather. What it could mean for dairy forage next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
It's been difficult for farmers from South Dakota to New York to get into the field and harvest first crop alfalfa. That could mean problems down the road for dairy forage. Experts say some dairy forage growing regions are swamps right now, and the longer it takes to harvest, quality could be impacted. Compounding the problem is winter kill. Wisconsin data shows that 43% of the alfalfa crop in the state suffered either moderate or severe winter kill. The northern part of the state experienced as high as 75% severe conditions. A company in Maine wants to turn cow poo into gas to heat homes. Summit Utilities is a natural gas distribution company. It's partnering with Maine's dairy industry through construction of an anaerobic digester to produce natural gas. Now, farms will provide the power, which is the manure. The president of Summit Utilities says the company plans to spend about $20 million to make the project happen. Don't you just hate it when an unwelcome guest comes for dinner and drinks? More on how one homeowner responded when she spotted this in her kitchen next.
AgDay, brought to you by new Delaro fungicide for corn and soybeans. Achieve personal best yields.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
This recent unwanted guest sure left his mark on one Florida home. Take a look. Yes, that's an 11-foot-long alligator. It broke in to a home through some low windows in a kitchen in Clearwater, Florida. The homeowner says when she spotted it, she moved into her bedroom, closed the door, and called police. She said she played games on her computer while she waited for help to arrive, and says it took 2 trappers and 10 police officers 2 hours to get the alligator out. Not only did the gator make a bit of a mess, but the homeowner says it got into her red wine, which she says was the good stuff. Now she jokes that she's not going to change her living habits because the next gator might like white wine. Wow, and that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us from all of us here at AgDay. I'm Clinton Grimace. Have a great day.